where there's a wider variance of opinion between the media and NFL executives. The media, myself included, saw him as a B prospect, a good solid in a very, very weak quarterback draft class, certainly arguable first-round prospect, maybe a second, third-round talent, but you know, solid, good family DNA, moved well, historically accurate, good kid, not a bad kid, certainly a better prospect than first-rounder Kenny Pickett.
Yep. The same dude who once clowned Shedeur as nothing more than a social media quarterback is now saying he could actually start for the Cleveland Browns. Did we just step into the NFL's upside down? Grab the popcorn because the league's loudest doubter just flipped the script like he mashed the wrong button on Madden rookie mode. And Shedeur, he's not just surviving this madness, he's steering it with swagger. Everybody remembers the moment that man walked onto set, chest puffed like he was about to deliver football gospel, only to trip over his own ego and crash harder than the 2023 Chicago Bears offense. The internet went into overdrive, memes everywhere, slow motion replays with violins screeching in the background, the kind of humiliation that lives forever online.
Down to the Titans, I thought he was a solid B prospect, crazy accurate, bad offensive line in college, no run game, and against good teams was always productive without a lot of mistakes. And yet he slid to the 5th round. And there's an argument, I don't know, 6th or 7th rounder undrafted, if not for Jimmy Haslam, the impulsive and meddling Cleveland owner.
But here's where it gets wild. That wasn't just a physical stumble. It was the symbolic downfall of his entire anti-Shedeur campaign. Because now that same guy who swore Shedeur was just a flashy influencer in pads is suddenly out here preaching like Shedeur's the savior of Cleveland football. Yes, the man who probably needs Google Maps to even locate Colorado is now convinced Shedeur could run the show for the Browns. Welcome to the NFL's multiverse, where it takes sour faster than spoiled milk, and reality checks come in the form of laser-sharp spirals that shred defenses. Rewind the tape. Back when Shedeur was cooking defenders at Jackson State like he had Game Shark codes loaded in his cleats, the so-called football gatekeepers refused to accept it. They couldn't handle the idea that this kid was rewriting the game in real time. And now they're all choking on their own backpedaling. Too flashy, too addicted to Instagram, too much of his pop's Dayon in his DNA. That was the smear campaign. And front row in that circus, none other than Mr. Tripped on his own hot take himself.
April, and Schefter comes out this week and says, you know, it looks like Travis Hunter is going to go to the Browns. Folks, nobody knows what Cleveland's going to do. And this is where I get risky and I say, I'm taking Shedeur Sanders. I mean, you know, frankly, he didn't have elite protection at Colorado, so I don't think we've seen the best Shedeur Sanders. Currently, he may end up on a roster, but I think the Cowboys have moved on with this new Joe Milton move. And I'll counter that with, I take the risk and I go Shedeur Sanders, because you know what? If I get Hunter and I got no quarterback throwing to him, I'm probably getting fired if I'm the front office. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to be a risk taker.
The same guy who thought swag was a crime and highlights were proof of fraud, the script was simple. Shedeur was painted as all style, no substance, just another coach's kid riding hype straight into a brick wall. But here's the kicker. The numbers were screaming the opposite. 40 touchdowns, entire defenses shredded like paper, and still they acted like the stat sheet was just wall decor. How do you spin dominance into a red flag? Only a true hater could pull that stunt. But hey, let's not drag them too hard. It's tough to read stats when you're too busy practicing smug speeches in the mirror. And then boom, the plot twist nobody saw coming. It's almost like these experts finally learned how to read with both eyes open, because here's the ugly truth they can't dodge anymore. Shedeur Sanders didn't suddenly level up overnight. The kid's been elite. The lazy takes are just now catching up. Let's rewind the tape, because this saga of stubborn denial deserves its own highlight reel. First came the character assassination phase. Remember that nonsense?
Cleveland Browns. If you're looking at the coverage of Shedeur Sanders and the way all of this is kind of being properly placed on the table, you about to get served if you don't see this coming. Just name him the starter today. Name him the starter and let him do what he's going to do for good for bad or worse, whatever it is, allow for him to do it because you drafted him. You drafted him. And it makes you start to think, did he drop in the draft because of his talent?
Leadership was somehow defined as posting less on Instagram, as if deleting an app makes you smarter. Confidence was twisted into cockiness, and brand building was treated like a straight-up crime. Meanwhile, Shedeur was busy turning Saturdays into his personal mixtape, and the gatekeepers just couldn't stomach it. While the critics were busy counting his watches, Shedeur was out here carving up defenses like a surgeon. This man was dropping NFL-level dimes with an O-line so shaky it could have been sponsored by paper towels. His pocket presence? Cold-blooded. His football IQ? Straight up terrifying. But now, let's obsess over jewelry instead. And then came the infamous fall. Literally and figuratively.
Sanders has two things going for him. And don't kid yourself, this is how the league works. The owner of the Cleveland Browns, Jimmy Haslam, is really impulsive. And in a quarterback room with zero star power, except Shedeur Sanders, he's going to get a chance. He is desperate to be recognized and for star power. Cleveland's roster is the weakest easily in the division, and the early schedule is brutal. So my prediction, you start looking at that schedule between weeks 7 and 10, Shedeur Sanders is going to get a shot here. Shedeur's on this roster because Jimmy Haslam wanted him on the roster. Haslam is starving for a star quarterback. So this is a team that's going to be boring offensively. You know what will make him not boring? Shedeur Sanders.
1 minute standing tall, the next sprawled out both on the field and in reputation. The internet had a field day, roasting him with symbolism that cut deeper than any injury report. Between failed PR stunts, chaotic headlines, and backup plans multiplying like a sketchy dating app, the Browns look one awkward press conference away from giving the job to anybody with Wi-Fi and a half-decent arm. And who's waiting in the cut, cool as ever, with real skill, natural leadership, and a chip on his shoulder the size of Ohio? Yep, Shedeur Sanders. Because here's what the casuals and even the so-called experts refuse to admit. His game ain't about cheap fireworks, it's about surgical precision, clean mechanics, ruthless decision-making, and ice-cold composure under pressure, something rarer in Cleveland than playoff wins. Shedeur's vision is seasoned. His presence feels like he's been mic'd up since birth.
Stories started coming out that he sandbagged certain interviews or was brash. The intel I was getting on Sanders was shocking. He had no self-awareness. So why did he drop? Am I surprised? Shocked, actually. I would have taken him if I was the Steelers. This executive said to me, if he doesn't go in the first 6 to 8 picks at the top of the second round, then people view him as a backup, and I'll quote it here, I'm not sure how many teams want that circus in the building as a backup. Nobody wants a celebrity backup.
And his poise, that's brand level polish, baby. He isn't just chasing a football dream, he's running a full-scale empire. Quarterback, businessman, leader, and yes, image controller all in one package. He knows when to talk and when to shut everybody up with a throw. And let's be real, that's exactly what the Browns need. Their starter is fragile, unpredictable, and lugging around enough baggage to need a personal bellhop. Cleveland's bench, let's be honest, it's not exactly overflowing with future stars. So when you've got a guy like Shedeur, media-trained, pressure-tested, and built for the big stage, you don't ignore that, you lean in.
People think that's a bad thing, but to a casual fan or people trying to make, memes and all that, he's going to draw some eyes to that team whenever he starts. The fact that every 100%. Time there's a Cleveland Browns practice, Dylan Gabriel does well. What does this mean for Shedeur? Shedeur does well. What does this mean for... It's ridiculous.
Of course, it's all for media. And the thing, too... No, you're absolutely right. The thing, too, is Kenny Pickett, really? He's not going to... No way.
Super Bowl champion, though, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I know. Ooh. But the thing is somebody's going to get cut.
Even the most stubborn front offices are finally catching on. They're rewatching film, digging through scouting notes, and asking themselves the real question, why wouldn't he be ready right now? Suddenly, that on-air tumble doesn't look like a blooper reel. It looks like the universe smacking the doubters upside the head. Now here's where it gets juicy. The great media pivot. 1 week it's not ready, the next it's future starter material. That ain't real analysis, that's PR spin with a side of desperation. It's like watching someone crash a wedding they swore would never happen, only to grab a champagne glass and act like they were rooting for the couple the whole time. The hypocrisy is comedy gold. And let's call it what it is. Shedeur Sanders is just the latest so-called surprise success, who's only surprising because the gatekeepers refuse to open their eyes. Now those same folks are lining up.
Shedeur again, and he's likes to have fun out there, is the best I can describe it. You know, he comes on the field and he's going up to the receivers and like thinking of celebrations to do when we score, like creating celebrations and all that, and that's awesome. It lightens up the mood. Everyone feels right. 'Cause you go in there, especially the first couple of days of minicamp, and everyone's tight, everyone's stiff, everyone's like, I can't make a mistake, I can't mistake. And he's coming up to you asking, you think he has an important question for you. He's like, hey, twin, what celebration you want to do? Yeah, all right. Like, I like it.
You can know that.
Definitely loosens you up and makes you play a little.
Pretending they were first on the bandwagon. Suddenly it's, oh, I always said he was talented, I just wanted proof. Please, the man's been proving it every Saturday. The receipts don't lie. The only thing late to the party is their credibility. He proved it when the media tried to torch him, and he stood taller than half the politicians running states. He proved it when every snub, every cheap shot, every whisper of, he's just Dion's kid, got flipped into rocket fuel. Shedeur doesn't just absorb pressure, he weaponizes it.
All the NFL headlines going into the regular season, Shedeur Sanders wins the starting quarterback job in Cleveland, okay? And nobody's thinking that the Browns are going to be able to do anything this year. However, this guy comes in and he takes them to a 10-win season. 10 wins.
That would be sweet.
As a rookie. Very similar to what happened last year with Daniels in Washington. And he wins offensive MVP, rookie of the year, I should say. I don't even think the numbers would matter.
And now here we are, in this bizarre poetic twist where Colin, yes, that Colin, is suddenly ready to crown him the Browns' offensive savior. This after months of acting like Shedeur's ceiling was holding a clipboard or running a preseason huddle. It's the equivalent of Gordon Ramsay praising microwave mac and cheese, or a climate change denier cashing checks from a solar panel startup, or the dude who mocked Tesla begging Elon for an internship. The back pedal is so smooth it deserves its own jazz soundtrack. But here's where it gets wild. The Browns might actually be the X factor in this whole saga, because if there's one franchise chaotic enough to hand the keys to a rookie with both talent and swagger, it's the same team that's already gambled on controversy, inconsistency, and mediocrity dressed up in fat contracts. Why not for once gamble on competence? The fans are buzzing like it's already week one. Jerseys are flying, social media is predicting miracle plays, and somewhere in a studio, you know exactly who's sweating over his monologue.
But there is no way in this world that the Cleveland Browns cut Shedeur Sanders. You know how fast people would be on the phones? That would be like, that would literally be like Tim Cook being fired by Apple. He would be picked up instantly by another company. That'd be like the Lakers cutting LeBron. I'm sorry, maybe not to the level of
yeah,
play,
not talent, maybe just like name value.
But
yeah.
name wise, oh my God, you know how many teams would grab Shedeur? I still can't believe he fell to the 5th round. There's no way they cut him. I know they were talking about that. If he gets outperformed, they're going to cut him. No.
Well, it reminds me of like the Tim Tebow situation.
Editing every word, trimming every take, trying to keep it just vague enough so he doesn't look dead wrong again when Shedeur proves him a fool. But here's the real twist. This story ain't about one analyst fumbling takes or one team scrambling for answers. This is way bigger. This is the moment where the new generation of athletes isn't just walking through the door. They're breaking it off the hinges and rewriting the script. Shedeur doesn't need to squeeze into some tired NFL mold. He's melting it down, recasting it in gold, and stamping his own name across it. He's not here to be the next anybody. He's here to be the first Shedeur Sanders. And whether it's Cleveland or another city that wakes up, one fact is undeniable. They laughed at the watch, they mocked the cars, they rolled their eyes at the swagger. But his composure, colder than an Alaskan winter.
If Shedeur Sanders at worst isn't the backup on this team, there's going to be hell to pay through the media. At best, if I am the head coach, the GM, and the owner of this team, I'm naming Shedeur Sanders my starter today. today. You know why? Joe Flacco, love you to death. You gave us a good little run. You're a Raven. Kick rocks.
Shedeur's presence is basically sponsored by frozen tundras and linebackers left scratching their helmets. He plays like every snap is a business meeting, walking into the huddle in custom cleats with a CEO's mindset. While critics obsessed over clicks, shades, and Instagram captions, Shedeur was out there slicing up defenses with the precision of a neurosurgeon who just signed an NIL deal. He didn't just run the offense, he owned it. Body, soul, and scoreboard. Yeah, Colorado went 4-8, but anybody with functioning vision knew Shedeur wasn't the problem. He was the only reason the Buffaloes weren't down 40 at halftime every week. Through the chaos, with his dad trending every other weekend and defensive lines treating him like a piñata.
Going to be the starter at some point of this season? Is
Absolutely.
Flacco going to be the guy? I think Joe Flacco starts the season as the Cleveland Browns starter. He shits the bed. They're not going to go to Gabriel or Pickett, and then I think they go to Shedeur.
I agree. I mean, just like the numbers don't lie. I mean, you look at Cleveland, there's like, what as a fan, because also like one of your longtime favorite players, I'm sure everyone has jerseys, Nick Chubb, he's gone too.
Yeah,
and your big quarterback, you spent all this money on, you paid him handsomely, you gave away your future picks, he's gone too. So how do you sell tickets? Shedeur. I mean, he's the #1 selling rookie jersey.
Shedeur kept his cool, steady, and unshaken. That's not hype. That's survival at the highest level. Stack Shedeur's game with his businessman brain, and you see why he's dangerous. NIL deals, brand strategy, charity work. This man is a Gen Z Peyton Manning with Wi-Fi. While other players flex chains on red carpets, Shedeur skips the ESPYs to host charity events because real flexes don't need flashing lights. He's not just a quarterback, he's a CEO in cleats. Now zoom in on Cleveland. The Browns are stuck with Deshaun Watson, who's been drowning in injuries and inconsistencies, looking like he's starring in a reboot nobody asked to see. And their backup squad? Please, they wouldn't scare a middle school flag football team. The Browns love wild gambles. Remember Baker Mayfield? The guy had more commercials than playoff wins, and they still went all in. So imagine how tempting Shedeur looks now. Elite processor, icy pocket presence, and the media savvy to not nuke the locker room with a single tweet. He's got every box checked for today's NFL. Smart, mobile, composed, brand safe, and starving for big moments. You want someone who won't crack under the lights? How about a dude who's been under Deion Sanders' spotlight since diapers and still strolls around like pressure is a bedtime story? And here's the kicker. The same analyst who once wrote Shedeur off as nothing more than a social media QB is now pitching him as a starter in Cleveland. Brother, you tripped on air, and now you're tripping over your own takes.
Greatest NFL positional battle this offseason has to be the Browns quarterback room. I mean, we're getting the unprecedented stat cards getting dropped after OTAs. And what a group this is. You assume it's going to be Flacco as QB1, but he's 40 years old and on his second stint with the team. And then there's Dylan Gabriel, who was the first quarterback they selected in the 3rd round of the draft. And then obviously Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round, probably the fan favorite going into this thing, as he already leads all.
Classic analyst U-turn, bad takes polished up and resold like expired meat in a fresh wrapper. The same script played out with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. Critics mocked, laughed, and rolled their eyes until both turned into MVP machines. Then suddenly every analyst was like, oh, we always saw the potential. Please, with binoculars from the rearview mirror maybe. But here's the thing, this isn't just about Shedeur. This is Deion's blueprint unfolding in 4K, frame by frame. From day one, Coach Prime drilled the formula: control the story, block the noise, and turn every so-called flashy moment into strategy. That watch? That wasn't bling, it was a statement. Those posts, those weren't distractions, they were declarations. Every custom suit, every flex had purpose, it was branding with precision. And now Shedeur is living proof the game has changed forever. The kid they said wasn't ready might actually be more ready than the entire league combined. Because the quarterback with Instagram swagger and velvet composure didn't just show up to belong, he showed up to dominate. And the best part, they're not laughing anymore. When he drops that first touchdown in a Browns jersey, you know exactly what's coming. The same doubters will suddenly swear they saw it all along. But here's the catch, the internet never forgets, and neither does Shedeur. So, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you on the next one.